We're talking with a client just the other day, right? And she's just started dating. And so we noticed something really interesting about what was going on with her dating, right? Like the first thing we noticed was that if she didn't like the guy, she had all these issues with him. Well, he's kind of boring, or he didn't seem to really be that really passionate about his life, or he just talks about his job all day. And I don't know, it's really hard work just keeping those dates going. Right. And then we heard this about two or three different guys that
We
she had
did.
met.
I
Right.
remember, yeah.
And then she meets this guy that she likes. This guy has like a lot of passion. He's a really interesting person.
Yeah, she's got like a connect. She feels a connection, right? She's like, oh wait, there's some life in him.
Yeah. And she starts noticing how she's like, oh, I bet he doesn't like me. Right. There's probably not going to get another date from this guy. I'm sure.
I don't think he's interested in
Yeah.
me. I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. There was something very interesting going on.
Yeah.
So before we dig into much further, I'm going to say hi, everybody. This is Love Intervention, and I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters. And if you're on Facebook, be sure to give us a like or a share. Let us know about let your friends know. Tag your friends on YouTube. You can subscribe by clicking the bell. You can comment if your questions underneath on Facebook or YouTube, or here in the chat on Vimeo with us on the live stream. So what she was revealing was what we consider the biggest block to creating love in your life. And this block applies whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship.
It's the number one top block to love.
Yeah.
We can't stress this enough because we see it over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter about relationship status or how long or whatever. It's the thing that almost everybody does. And so the top block to love is,
drum roll, please.
It is judgment.
That's right.
It's being judgy. So who has had the judgy beast come alive? So what was interesting about this particular client is, she hadn't been dating in a very long time, divorced, grown kids. And now in the sort of twilight years of her life, she's like, you know what? I have everything except love.
Yeah.
And so what she really was revealing to us through these first few dates with the guys she didn't find interesting is she was judging them and judging them and judging them and judging them. Not a match, not a match. No, 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 no. And the moment she meets up with somebody, first date, she immediately feels a connection and starts judging herself. So the mirror got flipped around. And here's the thing about judgment. On some level, all judgment is self-judgment.
Yeah.
So if any of you have been in a relationship for a while, you know this is true, right? You have these things about yourself and you have your triggers and your wounds and your insecurities. But suddenly these things that bother you about yourself are bothering you about your partner. And you think it's your partner, but it's actually you.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
We call this the funhouse mirror, right? You know what a funhouse mirror is. It's like you stand in front of the mirror and it's a distorted image. Either it's tall and skinny or short and squat, or it's all, wavy and
weird.
And weird.
You don't recognize yourself.
You don't see yourself in that image because it's distorted. And that's what this partner is, right? That's what this person you're sitting here in relationship is. They are a funhouse mirror for you. And what you don't understand is when you're looking at them and you're going, why did she? And I wish she wouldn't. And you hear that judgy voice.
Or I haven't. Right? And all that stuff.
You hear that judgy voice. And you need to realize that is you projecting your stuff onto this person. Now, some people think this is like literal. Like, if I don't like the fact that my partner, say, expresses anger too much, right? Or maybe has too much,
too much?
I'm not talking about you specifically. This is a hypothetical partner, right?
Yeah.
And so that would mean that, I have all this anger inside, right? And I judge my own anger. And so when I see it in her, I'm like, God, I wish she wouldn't be so angry.
It's not so exacting.
It's not exacting like that. It could be that I have, a lot of wounds around anger. Say I grew up in a family where the only way people expressed emotion was through anger and sarcasm. And so I have a lot of issues about anger, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I wouldn't know. It's somebody else's family I'm talking about.
Here's the thing, right? It's the distortion. I wanted to call it out, right?
Yes.
It's the distortion in the mirror.
Right.
So it's not a literal projection. It's a distorted projection and a distorted image. And so we forget that our judgment belongs to us. So let's go back to the client.
Yep. So, here she is. She comes into the session and she tells us a story about this latest guy. The one she's like, wow, I finally met an interesting guy, right? And I was like, and I kept noticing on the date that I just, I knew that he probably wasn't going to ask me out again, and that I wasn't that interesting to him, and I
I
wasn't.
found him really
I found him
interesting.
really interesting, but I was sure I wasn't his type. And it's like when we said, okay, isn't this interesting, right? First, when you were on these dates, you were judging the date because
The
you didn't
not
like the
interesting
guy, not
guys, the
interesting guys, the
boring
boring
guys,
guys.
all of that
You were
stuff.
judging them. And now that you find a guy that's interesting, you find you're judging yourself. Well, now we find the common denominator in all these relationships, which is your judgment, right? Ultimately about yourself. And so if you could release that judgment, then maybe there's some possibilities. There's an energetic
Ooh,
shift
things open up.
and how you're showing up with guys, right? So we call it this way. How can you, instead of be judgy, how can you be curious? Even if you're in a relationship, right? And you've been in a relationship for a long time, how can you leave that other person and go, huh, well, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
I wonder what's going on with that.
Matthew's kind of crunchy today. I
I'm
wonder
kinda-
what's going on with
Kind of
him.
curious about that, right? Instead of going, oh, wow, there she is again doing that thing I don't like. Right? You see you see the difference in that energy about how it opens up
changes
space.
the way you relate to the person, whether it's a first date, a 50th date, or 20 years together, right? It really doesn't matter, because the moment you open yourself up from judgment and release yourself of the judgment and you move into curiosity, wow, there's a whole realm of possibilities. So we are in the spring season. We're early in the season of spring here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has celebrated, Easter and the resurrection.
Right.
And there was Ramadan. And of course, there's Passover. And Passover, being raised Jewish, I'll just share, if you don't know, Passover is the journey from the narrow place to freedom, right? And what you're supposed to do at a Passover Seder is celebrate as if you yourself are freed that day. Can you imagine having been enslaved and now you're free? You're free to make your own choices. Freedom. And you're responsible for yourself too. And so it's interesting that when we start to look at what freedom gives us, because freedom gives us options, but you're supposed to look at the evening of a Passover Seder. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be looking at, what are you enslaved to? How are you enslaved? How have you enslaved yourself? How can you move from a narrow space into a wide open spaces, right? And so when you're stuck in judgment, you're in a very narrow little strip there.
Yeah.
And so this little narrow strip of judgment, how is that comfortable? Like, for those of you who've been stuck in this cycle of judgment, we want you to just, this realm of possibility. I mean, we are going to open things up to questions. I can see there's a few in the chat already, which is great. Thank you. Keep putting those questions in, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Our team will
whether you're here on the live stream.
Yeah, whether you're here on the live stream on Vimeo, just keep your questions coming as we're talking, because tonight's episode topic is so important. This idea of the biggest block to love, because that's really our specialty. Our specialty is to identify these subconscious blocks and not only bring them into awareness, but also help our clients transform them.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about how the subconscious mind, its job is to keep us safe, to keep us in this narrow place, right? Becky and Orna's wonderful analogy, right? This narrow place of behavior, this narrow place of even if we think about homeostasis of the body, right? The narrow temperature, narrow heart rate, narrow blood pressure, those things, we have this narrow range in which we are alive. And we get outside of that narrow range and we could die, right?
We will die.
Right. And so our subconscious sees, these changes outside of this narrow, known, comfortable space as possibly dangerous. And so it always wants to guide us back to what we know. So what I want you to think about is, if you've noticed judgment in yourself, right, and how you're judging other people, or you notice how you're judging yourself, that how is that keeping you in a comfortable place, right?
What's comfortable place
that quote unquote keeps you safe, right, from risking in some way. Because it's, you can't risk your heart if you're constantly rejecting other people.
If you find all the reasons to say, nope, not that one, nope, and you keep yourself isolated and you don't risk your heart, you don't open your heart to risk, right? Because love requires risk. Let's face it. Love requires that risk. And when you risk your heart, it's always a risk. But there's no more risk on a first date or a 50th date or together 20 years. It's the same risk.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, when you're in a healthy, balanced relationship, it's like the most yummy personal growth workshop you'll ever do because there's this other person here to help heal all that stuff from the past so that you can have a brighter, better, more joyful, exciting future and present and the present moment. So when we risk in the moment, when we take the opportunity and we risk in the moment, and we
Mm-hmm.
might share how we're feeling, right? I was talking earlier with a friend today, talking about, he said he gave his wife three rules, and one of them was no, you should.
That's a good one.
And we thought, that's what I said. I said, oh, yeah, the no, you should, right? And it's somebody I've known since the 80s, right? We're a very good friend. And no, no, you should. And I said, well, we take it one step further. We say, no, you. Why would you be talking about the other person?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We take it one step further in our practice. And with our clients, we tell them, oh, what if you shared what's going on with you instead of what you perceive is going on with them? Right. So all of this has to do with this biggest block to love that we're talking about tonight, judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Judgment is the biggest block to love. When you're judgy, in a sense, you're keeping yourself safe. You're keeping yourself in that little narrow strip of what's known because it is scary to step into the unknown. But guess what? If you don't have a yummy humana love relationship, if you don't have this yummy thing, then what you want is actually outside your comfort zone, right? If you don't have it, if you've never had it, right? It's kind of a different story if you had it and you like lost it for some reason. And I don't mean that like romance phase, blippy lightning struck and
Right.
3 months in, oh, it wore off. That's just relationships, right? That we could talk about the 5 stages another night. But we're not talking about that. But let's say you were with somebody a good long time and that person passed, right? That's a real loss. And you might think, ooh, is there a chance again? Well, there's always a chance again. There's always a chance for love. Love is always available to you. And the experience of love with a partner, we're really not supposed to be alone. We're really not. I mean, look at two horses. You're driving down the highway and you pass like acres and acres of open fields. There's two horses on 100,000 acres. Where are they? Pretty close to each other most of the time, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And we're like that too. We're supposed to be with other people.
We're
We're supposed to live in
we're naturally
communities.
social. We're naturally
Yeah,
communal. We're naturally, families and friends and all of that
yeah.
stuff. It's like we're meant to be in community together.
And we're
So,
supposed to couple up and partner up, and more than just to procreate and,
right.
and keep the species alive, right? There's more reasons for that. Because look at what we build when we work together in teams and we're all in communities living in harmony. But first, we have to learn to live in harmony in our home. And we're so passionate about this because the degradation, did I say
Yep,
it right?
you
Oh, I have
did.
such a hard time with that word, degradation of the family unit has really wreaked havoc in our society in so many ways and created so much pain for people. And so our goal is really to continue creating happy clients that are happy with themselves and feel like
Mm-hmm.
a whole person, not like, oh, you're going to meet your other half. That's codependence, right? But when you come together with another whole and complete person, ooh, now you can have a lot of fun together. And I'm just going to introduce ourselves one more time. If you're joining us a little late, hello there. My name is Orna
And
Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your struggles around love and to show you the way to create more love in your life.
Yeah, we want you to have that long lasting, soul satisfying love that you dream of, that you desire, and that you deserve. So we'll be taking questions. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and ring that little bell, tag the bell, subscribe. You'll get a notification for the next one. We do this every 2 weeks. So every other Tuesday, we're live. The next one will be, well, it's at the end. But if you're watching us on Facebook, you can go ahead and put questions or comments in the chat box. Our team will port them over here where we can see them. You can also give us a like, a share, tag your friends. And I think we have a question already. You
Yeah,
want
we
to
do.
go
We
ahead and
have
take
one
one?
from Kiki.
Okay, great.
And Kiki says, my husband and I seem to have grown apart. I love him, but don't feel like I'm in love with him anymore. It seems
Mm.
we're always at each other or disappointing each other. Is it time to move on? Or can we get the passion back? Or just simply stop fighting? Well,
Mm.
I hear you, Kiki. I mean, that's hard, right? And I want to say about the last option, that's probably not the best option because that just means you know, you're in a cold war, right? If you're no longer fighting. So it's not about stopping fighting, it's about how do you change the way you fight and what do you do with the fight, right? Now, the reason people grow apart like this is because you haven't been dealing with the issues between you. You haven't been, speaking up. You haven't been asking for what you want. Your partner probably hasn't been either. Instead, you've been just been holding on to those resentments, which begin simmering, which begin to create a space between the two of you, right? Which
Yeah.
ultimately creates distance and this feeling of like there's no passion anymore. And because you're holding on to those things, you're not cleaning them up, that you're easily triggered into that same old thing over and over again.
And there are patterns, right? We have patterns when we're single, and we have patterns when we're in a relationship. It's
Yeah.
just when we're with somebody, year after year, week after week, day after day, and all that stuff. It's really easy to get stuck in a cycle and in a fight cycle. So we really want you to be conscientious about our about cleaning things up, cleaning as you go, as
Yeah.
Matthew said, right? But I sort of want to take it from a bigger perspective, right? Because one of the things that we love to do is bust myths, right? And there's so many myths about relationship and these little colloquialisms.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I really hate the most about being in a relationship, especially in a marriage, is we hear all the time this idea of pick your battles.
Oh yeah.
Oh, forget about it. Pick your battles. Oh, I hate that one. I hate that one. I'm not at war with this guy. We're in love, right? So love and war don't go together. So don't give me a war analogy to talk about my loving relationship.
Hmm.
So I don't have to pick my battles with Matthew because if something bothers me on a level 0.00005, I can talk about it and say, "Hey, babe, I have this little oyster fork I want to clean up,"
Hmm.
right?
We
Or
use this analogy of dirty dishes all the time,
yeah,
keeping our sink clean. We don't want the dishes to pile up between us,
yeah.
right? So
And so, you know what it's like, right? If you don't, you didn't clean up from breakfast and you don't clean up from lunch, and then, oh my gosh, now dinner, now you have 3 meals worth of dishes, and it seems like forever to clean up the kitchen, right? And it doesn't really take that long. You just clean as you go, kind of thing, clean up after every meal
hmm
or whatever. And sometimes it's like the moment feels like it's past. I mean, I've certainly had things where in my own consciousness, I didn't recognize that it bothered me, and then it bothered me later, and then I'm like, oh, wait. So when I have the awareness, well, then I can clean it up. It's amazing.
yeah,
Right. And so it's a really important, like, I want you to understand that what's happened is you didn't just grow apart, right? It was not like some other force, like gravity got intervened between the two of you and pulled you apart,
right.
right? There's no like magical thing that happened. What didn't happen was a conscious choice to take your conflicts and turn them into a deeper connection. So we can help you more if you want to reach out to us. You can email us support, SUPPORT, at loveonpurpose.com, SUPPORT, at loveonpurpose.com. So if
I-
one of our staff,
yeah,
you sort of staff can type that in the chat, just say reach out to Ron and Matthew at support at loveonpurpose.com so people see it there. Kiki, we'd love to, maybe have a discovery call with you to go deeper into what's going on. And that would be you on your own because it only takes one person to change the dynamic in a relationship, right? When you're stuck in a pattern with another person, it only takes one of you to risk to have the knowledge, the awareness, and the capacity to really do something about it. And so we don't know the answer. We don't know are you supposed to stay or go, or anything because there's just not enough information or enough time for us to dig in today. But we want you to understand that you've gotten in a bad habit with your husband, and you can always change your habits.
yeah.
Like,
You
why
could
not?
change your dance steps.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you a little bit of a roadmap. This isn't, the whole way there, but start where we started today, right? Look at yourself and see if you can own your pieces of this dynamic. See if you can notice the places where you didn't speak up, or notice the places where you're holding on to grudges, notice the places where you have your stuff and maybe you've been projecting it onto him, right? And that's a great
Yeah.
place to start.
It's a great place to start. I'm going to skip down a bit because there's a theme that I think it's interesting of these evenings always have a theme. We pick a
Yeah.
topic, that doesn't necessarily give us the theme. The theme comes from the questions.
Yeah.
Because this is a similar stay or go, but a totally different situation, right?
Okay.
So Anna says, my boyfriend and I have been together on again, off again for nearly 15 years. How do I get him to either propose or end it? I want the whole shebang, marriage and kids. I've been helping raise his for years, and now I want my own too. Okay, so it's
All right.
another stay or go question, right? And
Right.
so, Anna, is there a place here where you are stuck in a narrow view, and can we break you through to freedom?
Exactly.
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
Because
I
we're
do
talking about
too.
blocks, you got to break through the blocks.
You got to break through the blocks. And one of the main things when we come to things like this is are you having these conversations, right? Are you making requests? And how is he responding to your requests? Is he agreeable, but then doesn't really do anything about your requests, right? Does he never make any effort to change, or does he ignore your requests and diminish your requests, or
Argue with you.
argue with you about your requests? Or when you make a request, does he go, oh,
I see your
I
point.
see your point, and I can make effort, and then make effort, right? But the big question is are you even having these conversations, right? Because the rules constantly change in a relationship. I mean, we've been together coming on what, 15 years, right? And our dance steps have changed a lot. Our needs have changed a lot. The current situation in our lives have changed a lot in those 15 years, and we've constantly been talking about and staying in touch with each other about what we want, what we need, and where we're going. And you're not just gonna do that by osmosis, right? I mean, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what Orna needs. Sometimes I do, right? Because she's made those requests.
But that's like winning
right?
a lottery ticket.
That's like
Let's
winning.
face it. That's
No,
not
let me say it this way. Sometimes I do because she's made requests, right? And I go, oh wait, I remembered that she actually wanted me to do this thing, right? So I go, oh okay, so I can actually read her mind in that moment because she's already asked me,
You're so cute.
and I remembered, right? But most of the time I don't know, and most of the time she doesn't know as well about what's going on with me unless we check in with each other and say, how are you doing? What do you need? What's going on? Right? In fact, this is a question that I often have when we're towards the end of a repair. I'll turn to Orna and I'll say, is there anything else you need from me?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you need, right? So that we can resolve this and so that we don't have to hold on to it.
Because those judgy moments, those things we're holding on to, like, oh, he just blah 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 blah, or she just blah blah blah. Like all that does is put space between you and the other person.
Yeah.
And so when you release that judgment and you go, oh, what am I really not wanting to see about myself? It's easier to judge another person, right? Instead of look in the mirror and be like, oh, that's mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like be willing to look at your stuff. Because here's the thing. A lot of times we set the bar too high and we think that we have to be perfect to somehow earn love. Like perfection is going to earn love. And like there's no perfect person. There's a perfect person for you. Like I believe Matthew's perfect for me, but he's far from perfect. I'm far from perfect. We still have disagreements. We still have miscommunication. We still fight because we're in a relationship together. And we spend an awful lot of time together. We always say, this relationship should be stamped for professionals only. Please don't try this at home because we work together too and we're married. So we spend an extraordinary amount of time together. And what we want you to understand is it's not magic. You're not going to meet some mythical unicorn of a person, some little fairy, whatever, that you just always get along with and always in sync with. It starts that way, right? Yeah. And that's the promise of what can be if you keep going. But it's not going to happen over time. You're going to have those disagreements. So what do you do with them, right? We talked about turning that conflict into a deeper connection. But I want to give you another way to think about it, another way to think about all these, stay or go kind of questions. The thing that makes a relationship last, the thing that holds two people together, is the same thing that holds teams of people, groups of people together out of the world. So all the fans at the bar rooting on the same team, what do they have in common? Or what do all the businessmen in the C-suite of a company, what's holding them together, right? What holds these groups of people together that can also hold your relationship together? I bet you know the answer.
I do know the answer. It's having a common goal.
Bingo! Right? Ding,
when you
ding,
have
ding,
a common
ding,
goal, when you have something that you all share together that you desire,
yeah,
right? Then whether you're fans rooting on a team or whether you're running a business together, or even you're in a corporate job, but you have passion about what you're trying to create, right? Or whether you're doing some kind of charity, right? You have a goal there as well. Having that common goal binds people together and helps you work through your difficulties, because the goal is more important than the difference between you.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah,
ideally, right? We're
ideally.
humans, and sometimes we forget that the goal is the most important thing. But in a relationship, those common goals are the things that you want from life together. It's the reason you come together, whether it's a family, whether you want to travel the world after retirement, whatever you want to create a business together, right? Whatever that thing is that you're passionate about
Or
as a
maybe it's just
person.
to enjoy your lives in the same way,
Right.
like your parents. I mean, your parents. I mean, your
Yeah,
mom.
but they had common goals. I mean, their
Right.
common goals were about their friends and their family,
That's my point. It could
right?
be something as simple as that.
Yeah,
I mean, your parents were always the happiest when everybody was under the same roof, when
yeah,
the whole family was together, like on those Christmas Eve parties after everybody left and it was just the family,
right.
right? Just all their kids and grandkids, right? All
Hmm.
the all of that, and so that's really what brought them joy, right? And so it could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be something outside of you, like a charity or a business or whatever. It could literally just be the two of you kicking back with your friends, right? Kicking back with your kids and your grandkids and enjoying life, right? I mean, your parents always have a boat. They always had a boat
Yeah,
to go out on the lake. They
yeah.
lived on a lake, right? So it's like they always had these things that they valued the same things, right? And so when you look at what do you value in a relationship, those are the things you put your time and effort into. So you have to value the relationship too, and you have to update those goals. If your goals is just a family and then the kids leave the house. I remember one of my closest friends I grew up with. He lives in New York, and he and his wife, they had two kids. And I remember the first summer that the kids went off to sleepaway camp for the whole summer. And he's like, God, we were like empty nesters. It's kind of weird to spend this much time together.
Hmm.
And I said, do you want some tips? And he said, sure. So I gave them some fun things to do. And I mean, one of them was just about being curious with each other, but another was to have a stay at home date night where you each feed each other while one person's blindfolded you
That's a
know,
fun one.
and then you switch the other person. You know what's fun about this? I got to tell you, when you do the blindfold date night,
Hmm.
and we do it like a picnic, we do it like literally on the living room floor in front of the
It's best if it's little
fireplace,
finger foods, right?
little finger foods. And this is the thing I love about a date night like this is it's just as much fun for me to be fed by Matthew when I'm blindfolded as it is to feed Matthew when he's blindfolded. I can't tell you which side of the equation is more fun because they're both fun. It's fun to make up the flavor combos of what follows what, and all of that stuff. It's a really fun sort of, you know, interlude.
Yeah.
It's a
So
fun evening together. And so look, here's the thing. Get curious about yourself. Get curious about your partner, no matter how long you've been together. Because we say it like this. The most important ingredient to a lasting loving partnership, and this is it. It's really easy, but not simple. It's remembering that the other person is not you.
yeah,
Matthew and I do have the same goals, right? We share goals, we share values, right? We're a great values match. But I am not him and he is not me. He
we
is
have very different strategies.
very different. Oh my goodness. And so here's the thing people think that, their strategy for dealing with an event or an occurrence or a behavior, right, is the best strategy. We get attached to our strategies.
Hmm.
I'm not attached to my strategies, right? I mean, I might have been early on in the relationship, but I'm certainly not anymore because we're constantly updating our dance steps, right? So if you're judging the other person, like, oh, why is another one? Why automatically has judgment in it, right?
Yeah.
Why would we do it that way? Ooh, that would not. That's so judgy.
That's not a good one.
Not a good one.
So I want to jump in here. We got a great comment from Daniel on Facebook. He says, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Daniel. And I'll just say this. This is Love Intervention. And this is
Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters. And for those of you on Facebook, please give us a like. Share this with your friends if you think it's helpful to them. If you're on YouTube, subscribe by clicking the bell.
Did I say ding the bell? I think I did.
I think you did.
Click the bell.
You can also ask your questions on Facebook or YouTube as well as here on the live stream. So
Spread the
we
love, spread
spread
the
the
love, spread
love.
the love. Okay.
So let's
So
go
we
to
are
another question.
so love intervention is your opportunity for us to ask your questions live, right? We're going to answer. No, we're not going to ask your questions. What did I just say?
We're going to answer.
I got tongue tied. Okay. We're answering your questions live about dating, mating, and relating. This is love intervention. Here's your chance to ask us anything.
That's right.
All right. You want to pick the next one?
I do. We have Rebecca here, and Rebecca says, I'm not exactly sure what you mean about blocks to love.
Okay, that's
I was
fair.
in love once, and my family and his family didn't let us be together. Ouch. Now I'm in my mid 40s and still never married. I feel like I missed my chance. Wow. Well, we hear you, Rebecca. I don't want to make light of it, but we got a real life, kind of Romeo and Juliet situation. It's like your families want to keep you apart. And, you know, life circumstances suck sometimes, right? I'll just be honest with it. What happens in life, we oftentimes have no control over. And it's really, it's not oftentimes the most pleasant. However, we have a saying, and sometimes this is tough to hear, but I want you to hear this because this is really important.
It's a tough love moment.
It's a tough love moment. You know that question, why do bad things happen to good people? Right? We say that all the time. You think about, well, God, I mean, come on. If God's all loving, then why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Well, we have an answer, and it's the only answer that's useful. Whether it's true or not, I'll let you debate that with, God or your priest or whoever, right? But
Goddess, universe, Moses, Jesus,
exactly.
Allah, whatever higher power,
whatever higher power you have, right?
We're open.
You could argue with them about this, but I think this is the most useful way to think about it. So why do bad things happen to good people? To make them better.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right.
Why do bad things happen to good people? It's the best answer we know. Bad things happen to make them better. But here's the other thing, Rebecca. If you are comparing how you feel about somebody at 40 compared to how you felt about somebody that was like a first love situation, and you're setting a bar so high that I don't know anybody's going to work to reach up that high. You know what I mean? Like nobody can measure up. Like you've kind of set the bar really high, and maybe that's not the way it's wired inside of you, but that's, we are talking about the biggest block to love being judgment. I hope now that you've heard us talk about how judgment is a block to love, I hope you get a better idea about what a block to love is. But here's the thing, if you're judging every opportunity based on that original experience, you are judging that person and in a sense saying they're not measuring up for you. Because, ultimately for love to last, you have to let somebody's best be good enough.
Yeah.
You have to let somebody's best be good enough. And it's one of the things Matthew said earlier, and we kind of glossed over it because we were talking about so many different things. I didn't want to highlight it. But in order for love to last, you not only have to let somebody's best be good enough, but you also have to let someone's effort count. You have to let someone's effort to count. This is something that's so important for people to understand, that when you're in a relationship year after year after year, you start to think you know everything about the person, right? And we talked about this idea of staying open and curious. But what's even more important is to extend your partner the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt. And what happens is we date backwards. You all out there, you're dating backwards and you don't even know you're dating backwards. Because dating backwards is giving a stranger the benefit of the doubt after just a couple dates, a few dates, handful of dates.
And we do that because we feel this attraction. Right?
Yeah, we have all the feelings.
We go, oh
right?
my God, this is my person. And so we put on these rose-colored glasses and we ignore the stuff that we should pay attention to. Right. And we highlight all the other stuff like, see, he's perfect.
Yeah.
Ignore. Look how perfect he is. Or she's perfect.
Yeah.
Ignore. Right.
Yeah. And then we get in the relationship, right? We end up walking down the aisle, we get married, blah, blah, blah. And then the power struggle has already started before the wedding takes place. And suddenly you've taken off the rose-colored glasses. And this person that you've pledged to share your life with, It seems like they used to do no wrong and now they could do no right. Because you've taken off those rose-colored glasses. And instead of giving the person who's earned it the benefit of the doubt, you've taken those rose-colored glasses off. So we know we've got a mix of you here tonight, whether you're single, looking for love, looking for a partner, or in a relationship, but maybe unhappy. We're going to tell all of you who are single, aka looking for lasting love, right? If you're in the dating process with somebody, take off those rose colored glasses, put them away, stow them away in a very safe place. And those of you in a relationship, if you're married, committed, whatever that situation is, you really want to go get a pair of rose colored glasses and start looking at your partner through the rose colored lens of giving that person the benefit of the doubt. And that doesn't happen until you're with somebody for a few years. And I got to tell you, the reason why you want to wait a few years is because life will throw you curveballs.
Yeah.
Life will throw you curveballs. And what you want to know is not how that other person behaves when everything's going great, when everything is just smooth and easy. You want to know, what is it like? Oh my gosh, like going through a global pandemic together.
Oh
What about
my.
that, right? Like, let's face it, we've been through two of the most stressful years we'll ever have in our lifetime just because of this global pandemic, whatever your response was to it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you believe or think or whatever. I know there's a lot of divisiveness, but here's the deal. Stress is stress. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And it's been stressful for everybody. And divorce rates have skyrocketed, right? Because of this pandemic. How awful, right? Because
suddenly here you are spending all day in the same space with somebody who was normally gone 8 to 10 hours a day.
yeah,
Right. And you're like, suddenly have to deal with, their habits all the time.
yeah,
Right. And so putting on those rose colored glasses, right, allows you to give them grace.
yeah,
I just love that word, grace, right? Give somebody grace because they've probably earned it. If you're in a committed relationship or married or been married for a while,
yeah.
hopefully they've earned the right to some grace every once in a while. They've earned the right to have a bad day or to have a bad moment or to have a bad habit,
Right.
right?
And so if you're dating, you want to hold off giving somebody the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Don't give a stranger the benefit of the doubt. When you give a stranger the benefit of the doubt, it's like putting your lovability in the hands of a stranger.
Yeah.
And if anybody feels embarrassed by that, I'm going to raise my hand to say me. I've done it. I did it so many times. I used to put my lovability in the hands of a stranger, right? I used to think I was unlovable. I mean, I didn't get married till after 40, mostly because I didn't think anybody would ever marry me. I never thought somebody would stand up in front of their friends and family and pledge to love, honor, and cherish. I never thought that was even possible for me. I just didn't. And so it's just one of these things where what you believe is true for you, right? So our beliefs, our limiting beliefs about love are very much tied to blocks, our blocks to love, to answer Rebecca's question, right?
Yeah.
She's not sure. She doesn't know what we mean about these blocks to love, right? If you have a limiting belief that all the good ones are taken because,
or that you can't get what you want, you don't get what you want, right?
yeah,
Which could be a story that came from that event. I don't get what I want.
yeah,
And so you're always finding fault in everybody else because it's not quote unquote what you want because you don't get what you want. Right. So you want to look at what those stories are. And I want to go back to sort of where we started with you, Rebecca, to sort of bring this thing full circle and wrap it up. So we talked about this idea of bad things happen to good people to make them better. So the only way for that to happen is for you to choose that outcome and to say, I'm going to learn from this situation and see how I can change and grow. I'm going to learn from this situation to see what I need to do differently, how I need to think differently, how I need to respond differently so that I don't continue to repeat this outcome. All right. Shall we find another question here?
Yeah, I think it's my turn to choose.
Okay.
Susie says, I want a family and I'm 38. I'm starting to freak out. I'm sorry, Susie. I'm starting to freak out that I don't have time to find a partner and have babies. What am I supposed to do? Well, do you want, it's all about your motivation for the babies and the family, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to start here. When I say I never thought somebody would marry me, that's so true. I was never that little girl dreaming about my wedding day. I couldn't even imagine seeing it. But I also couldn't imagine seeing it because I didn't have the person, right? It's like getting married in a vacuum, without a guy. That just didn't really resonate. I couldn't relate to it. But getting married to Matthew, like once Matthew was the guy in the picture, right? Once Matthew proposed and Matthew asked me to spend the rest of my life with him, they got specific. Ooh, I can get really excited about that. Like really, really, really excited about it. Okay. So I want you to examine your motivation. And I
Mm.
totally get the 38. We've had a lot of clients in that 38, 39, 40, right? Like, alarm's going off on 40, 40, 40, 40. So there's a few things
My
you can
eggs, my
do.
eggs.
Yeah, my eggs, right? The sky's falling. So, you know, if you really know you want a family and you definitely want to make your own babies with your own eggs, you might want to see about getting some eggs frozen, right? Just to
Mhm.
calm your nervous system down. So take steps to see about freezing your eggs because getting your eggs now at 38 is going to be a hell of a lot better than trying to, squeeze out another egg at 42, 43, 44, 45, whatever, right? But if you have those eggs frozen, right, then there's a good opportunity. So it's like calm your nervous system down. But
Yeah.
I want you to do some inner soul searching in a sense and be like, what do you believe the family is going to bring you, right? Because I always worry when the emphasis on babies and not partner, because things go in a certain order, biologically for a reason. And look, there's plenty of people and even clients we've had that have gone through the steps of having a baby all on their own, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that's for you or not for you, but it is something to consider, right? You can certainly freeze your eggs. You can go through all kinds of treatments and have a baby all on your own, right? And then move forward and see how things play out. And we also had a client who went ahead with IVF and then pregnant, got a boyfriend, and they've been together and he adopted
Hmm.
that baby and they're still together many, many years later. So there's a lot of ways to calm your mind about this, what used to be a biological roadblock. And now there's a lot of options for you.
Yeah, and I also want you to sort of open up your thinking about it. So we have a client who similar situation, right? When she came to us, she would say things like, "Well, if this," she'd met a guy, and the clock was ticking, and so she's got to figure out if he's the right guy quickly so that they can get into making the babies, right? And she
Because
would,
he wants babies
because he
too.
wants babies too, right? They're
Right.
on board with the babies thing, and so she would go, "Well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to be devastated." Right. And then
That's a lot of pressure on a
and
brand new
and
little baby relationship.
right, and she was doing the same thing with the IVF. Well, if the IVF doesn't work out, I'm going to be devastated, right? And as we began to dig into this energy around it, because all that fear that was
Oh,
driving
yeah.
her choices wasn't helping her nervous system, wasn't helping her reproductive system, wasn't helping any of the situation, wasn't even helping her ability to make good judgments about the person, right? Because it's like the fear was driving everything. And once we helped her release the fear, it's like suddenly things have changed about how she talks about all of it, right? Turned out the guy wasn't the right guy for, a lot of
Obvious
reasons,
reasons.
obvious reasons, and thank God,
And
right?
she ended it and was
She
like,
ended
and
it. Yes.
she wasn't devastated. As a matter of fact, she was the opposite of devastated.
Yeah,
I
she
think
was
she
relieved.
was relieved and kind of elated. She was like, oh, she literally we watched her blossom into being like more of herself, like a more calm, centered version
Mm.
of herself.
Exactly. And so the same thing with her has come up with the IVF. It's like she's had some challenges with the IVF. She decided to go through with it even without the guy. And she's had challenges come up with it. And she's no longer at that place because of those challenges that she's going to be devastated that it doesn't work
Yeah.
out. Right. Doesn't mean she's not going to feel grief and sadness if she's never able to conceive a child. Right. That would be
But
unrealistic to
that's a
think, but
manageable,
that's manageable, right?
right?
And it's
It's
something
not,
that
yeah,
she
it's
can learn and grow from if that is the ultimate, end of things for her, if that's how it turns out. But she's come to a much more accepting space of herself and the situation, and therefore much more relaxed about her approach to it.
she's having a blast dating for the first time. She was
Mm-hmm.
so ecstatic in our last coaching session because she used to be really uptight and running on fear. It was something we identified really early in her coaching with us. That all of these achievements she's had in life, and there's quite a lot of them, and that she would be running on fear.
Yeah.
And running on fear for career or for school and that kind of stuff, that will work. You can get far running on fear.
This
But when
doesn't feel good, but it'll work, right?
it'll
You'll get
work, you'll get
results.
results. And when you're running on fear for a life partner, ooh, because the thing is, when it comes to picking a romantic partner, right, an intimate relationship, the emotion that's driving that your choices and your behavior is
Hmm.
literally the rudder on your boat. So running on fear brings you more things to fear.
Hmm.
I mean, it's literally like an energetic match. Not like it is when it comes to, needing to study for school or whatever you need to do to get a job, or, those it's a different situation. It's different because your emotions are driving your choices when it comes to love, and not as much, not in the same way. It's not like the rudder on your boat when it comes to finding a job or something like that, or schooling. And so just switching her from to I called it switching her to run on a clean energy system, right? An eco-friendly system, that instead of running on fear, to run on joy. I think it was her word. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. We did some work with her to sort of switch the fuel she was running on, and suddenly the rudder on the boat shifted, and she's so much more like at peace and calm and grounded. And she does
Yeah.
have a very stressful job, so there's a lot of stress in her everyday life just from work, and she does love her work, but it is very stressful. So her quality of life is at another level now, and she's really enjoying dating for the first time in her life. First time in her life. She's over 40. She's been dating a long time.
Yeah.
So first time she's actually enjoying it. You can enjoy dating. Was that
Yeah.
something new? Had you guys
It
ever thought of
doesn't
that
have to be a
before?
chore, right? It
Yeah, it
doesn't have to
doesn't
be
have to
something you
be.
have to deal with because you've
Yeah.
got to, that's the only way to find somebody, right? Could actually be a good time getting to meet people and getting to practice and getting to do
Yeah.
all these things. We have a whole process of dating that makes it a great learning experience for yourself,
And it's
right?
fun.
And get and more clarity about what you really want.
And it's
So,
fun. Did I mention that it's fun?
yeah,
You keep talking over that. It's fun.
it's fun.
Makes it
Yes.
fun. Okay,
So
makes it fun.
I want to say once again, this is Love Intervention,
Yes, and I am Orna
and
Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters,
And
and we're here every other
every
Tuesday.
other Tuesday. So listen, if you're on Facebook, please give us like a thumbs up, a like, a reaction, something, a share, give us a comment, tag your friends if you think they'll enjoy this. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe by clicking the little bell, get notified on the next time we're going to be live again. And if you're here on Vimeo with us, which we are streaming to you through Vimeo, you can go ahead and put your question for us right into the chat. Our team is actually bringing them in from other places, from YouTube and Facebook. So if you have, just put them right in the comment section. You don't have to jump over, try to find where we are. Just wherever you are, Facebook, YouTube, put your questions in the comments. Our team will port them over. And thanks to our wonderful team. So we want to
That's
say
right.
thank you, give a shout out to Steph and Issa and Lanny. Thank you. We couldn't do this without you.
Yeah.
We're so grateful for your support always, but especially during our love intervention. So thank you. All right, we're going to take another question, maybe another two. It's your turn.
It's my turn. And
Your
I
turn.
want to do a guy this time. So we've got a good
You want to
one.
do a guy? Is there
We're going
something
to
I
do a
need to
guy's
know?
question.
Sorry.
You're hilarious. Oops.
You're funny.
So this is Jerry. Jerry says, it seems like all the women I meet are looking for another girlfriend, but with sex. I'm never going to be like a woman, always asking what's up and what she wants. It's not that I'm selfish. I just don't think that way. I'm a nice guy, and maybe it's true we always come last. I've had women
Oh.
break up with me, telling me I'm just too nice. What am I supposed to do about that? Oh, wow. All right, Jerry. So I want to talk about the nice guy thing.
Because you're a recovered not nice
Because I'm
guy.
a recovered not nice guy, but I've also tried to be the nice guy, right? And
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's true.
it's not a good game you're playing, because what you think you're doing, which is sort of like adjusting to what she wants and trying to pay attention to what she wants and figure out what she wants so that you can give her what she wants, but never really talking about and stepping up and claiming what you want, is kind of leaving her feeling, you know, a little uncomfortable, right? It's kind of leaving her feeling
There's no
like
one driving the boat.
there's no one driving the boat. She doesn't want to drive the boat, right?
We don't.
Women don't like driving the boat when it comes to relationships. Some women do because it makes them feel in control, but ultimately you're going to feel dissatisfied if you're a woman and you're driving the boat. So
All the time.
what these women who are calling you a nice guy are saying is, Jerry, you're not driving the boat, and we need you to drive the boat.
You got to stand up, make decisions, make choices.
You
gotta
claim, you gotta stake your claim, and you gotta say to this woman, whoever it is that you're with, you gotta say, hey, look, I like you. and I want this to work. And I'm here to say, this is what I want from my life. And this is where I'm going. And I want you to come along with me.
What do
Right?
you think of that?
What do you think of that? Right?
Yeah.
Now, we talk about confidence. And I think that's just, it's a lot of crap. And there's also a lot of stuff out there that's about, the stuff from the game and sort of, trying to
The PUA,
manipulate and
yeah.
the pickup artist stuff. And all that's just manipulative and BS, right?
And not authentic
And
and
not
weird.
authentic.
And not a nice guy strategy.
Not a nice guy strategy at all. And but I want you to get this, right? Orna knew all along what I wanted. She knew all along where I was taking this relationship. In fact, when I said to her, I didn't go up to her and say, hey, the holidays are coming up, but I usually travel home, and I don't know what you think about, coming possibly to meet my family, and would that be okay with you? Right? I'm not doing that. Right? Instead, I said, hey, when you meet my family over Christmas,
that was so sexy.
I didn't ask. I told her what was happening. I didn't do it in like, look, you're coming with me to Christmas, right? I just said, hey, look, when you meet my family over Christmas, when we go back and meet them, right, this is what's going to happen.
And well, not only that, I mean, it was super sexy and sweet. I got to tell you, and for the ladies listening, going, ew, what do they mean? I don't want to drive the boat. You don't, because you want to drive the boat for a limited amount of time, and then you want to pass it over to him. And you'll just, it's exhausting for us women to drive the boat because we're not, by design, we're supposed to respond. Like, I'm going to say it really clearly for you ladies that are dating. It is your job to set the pace of the relationship. And it is the man's job to lead. Now, I said it the woman's job first so that you don't automatically assume the woman has to follow. She does not have to follow.
Right.
So if a guy is going too slow, you got to give him some hints that the water's warm to speed things up, right?
But see if he can adjust.
Yeah, sometimes that's an issue at the beginning, but usually it happens the other way. Usually the guy's coming on too strong and a woman's like, whoa, 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 slow down. Or she deselects because he's coming on so fast. And all that guy, a guy that's interested in you, maybe he just needs a little tweak, right? So, Jerry, you don't have to go 180 degrees in the other direction, right? But I think it's this thing of claiming her. You can't end up in the, like, this idea that, women are only looking for a girlfriend with sex. That's not true. We don't want to be with somebody who's just like us. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm not some kind of passive wallflower, right? But I never had to ask Matthew, about the talk, right? I never had to say, where is this going, right? I never had to ask him because he showed me every step of the way. Every step of the way. So I never had to wonder. And I think you're letting the ladies wonder. You're leaving too much up to them. Yep. So if you like a woman, claim her. Ask her for exclusivity. We had a male client we started coaching a year ago. I can't believe it's been a year. We just did a check-in call with him recently. He's in a relationship with a lovely woman, and we were checking in. But one of the things that I found really interesting is when we got to the dating, because we don't necessarily start with the dating stuff. Right. That comes in phase 2 of our coaching. So we don't start off with the dating stuff. The first phase is what we're talking about tonight. The biggest blocks, right? Most common, most biggest block, judgment. We nailed that at the top. If you didn't watch the top of the hour, you might want to catch that. But after looking at a person's specific blocks to love and sort of transforming those, after those blocks are gone, those limiting beliefs have been switched, turned around and transformed, now we talk about dating. Mm-hmm. And when we first had this guy start dating, and he had met this woman, and she was definitely interested, and they didn't live in the same state, but they were communicating, I guess on texts or phone calls and stuff like that. And he decided he wanted to exclusively date her. We brought up dating, mm-hmm. and he said, I don't want to date anybody else. And we said, okay, well, then you have to claim her and see if she's open to exclusivity. And he says to us in the session, well, I don't know about that. I mean, do I really have to do that? I mean, I was just going to sort of play it out and see how it goes.
Yep. Nope. That's not a good strategy, right? Because...
So tell Jerry why it's not good.
It's not good because you're kind of leaving it up to her, right?
To drive the boat.
Instead, you want to have the conversation. You want to say, hey, look.
I like you.
And I don't want to date anybody else. So I'm not going to be dating anybody else. I'm just going to be dating you. And I want to know what you think about that. How do you feel about that? Because
And
I'd like you to also just be dating me.
yep, claim her. Because here's the thing, it's a risk. Love requires risk. Mitigate the risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You might want to wait till you know somebody before you ask for exclusivity,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. We can give you more tips another time. Maybe if you become a client, we'll give you a lot more tips. But here's the thing. What I really want you to understand is women like being claimed, right? Most of our clients, we have to tell them to set the pace. I'm like, tell them not yet, tell them not yet, tell them not, don't tell them no, tell them not yet. Oh gosh, it's only our third date. It's like, I'm really, really having a good time getting to know you. And I really like everything I've found so far, but I don't think we know each other well enough to go exclusive yet. It's the yet part that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our female clients have to circle back at some point to the guy and say, hey, you know what? I'm ready now to go exclusive. Right? It's the sweetest thing when a woman circles back and the guy's like been like, oh, okay, I gotta maybe he's got to step up his game a bit, right, to claim her and take her off the market, or maybe it's just not enough time has passed. So claiming somebody does two things. One, it lets you know where you stand,
Mm-hmm.
so you know how she feels about you. And if she's like, nope, that's not how I feel about you, boom, you can move on. So you're not wasting time.
You don't want to waste time.
You don't want to waste time.
Doesn't always feel good, but it's not personal. It's really not about you.
And if she tells you not yet, that's the magic. That's the magic, because what she's saying is, I like everything I see and I like you, but I'm not ready yet. So now you get to be the nice guy by not pushing it and not by honoring her request that she's not ready yet. And that doesn't mean that you can't check in and be like a month later, like, I just wanted you to know I'm still not dating anybody else. And I would love to take you off the market. But if you're still not ready, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Yeah.
It's sexy. It's really sexy when a guy claims you. I love when Matthew said to me, when you meet my family at Christmas, I think I sat up straight. I was like, oh, right. It was so sweet. I mean, it was also his birthday's around Christmas, and so it was a big one. It was your 40th birthday. And it was just really sweet. We made a whole plan to celebrate his birthday with his family the first night we were there. What did your mom say? You're throwing her to the wolves right away.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Yes.
God, I miss your mom.
Yeah.
What a great lady.
So I want to say we're coming to the end of tonight's Love Intervention. We're here every other Tuesday. You can either catch us here on the live stream. You can catch us in Facebook. You can catch us on YouTube.
You can also send us an email if you want to know more about our services. Support, SUPPORT, at loveonpurpose.com. And we're going to be back in 2 weeks for our next Love Intervention. That will be May 10th. So Tuesday, May 10th, we're always live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and you can figure out everything else in between. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters.
Are we going to go ahead and sign off? You want to take one more question?
No, we're to the end here. It's almost 6 o'clock. So
I know.
I don't think we're not good at short answers. So.
We're really not. We like to over deliver. Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you
for joining us.
Some of your time joining us today for Love Intervention. We're here to intervene in those love blocks that are keeping you from the love you desire and deserve. Join us in 2 weeks. I want to give a shout out to our team. Thank you to Steph and Issa and Lanny. Couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a good night.
Good night.